Welcome back to Wisdom Unveiled. So glad to have you with us again as we continue this deep dive into Rumi's thought. Just a quick reminder that we're working with translated conversations, Iranian philosophers. So, as always, we strive for accuracy, but some things may get a little bit lost in translation.
Yeah, so true. Language is tricky, especially with these kind of spiritual concepts.
Exactly. But even with that, disclaimer, the richness of Rumi's ideas really still comes through. So today we're focusing on just one idea from him. Sounds simple at first, but it unfolds into this whole exploration of, how we see things, human perception, and how we connect with each other. And the quote is, "Whoever became separated from himself became my companion."
Ooh, that's a good one. Almost like a riddle. How can someone be separated from themselves but also be Rumi's companion, right?
Yeah, right. It's a head-scratcher when you first hear it. So to unpack all this, we're going to turn to our source material. It's a translated conversation between Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani, and they're focusing on a passage from Rumi's Masnavi.
The Masnavi, that's really something. It's huge, so intricate, and often considered, a guide to the spiritual path. Like even this one idea, there's so much there.
So let's dive in, right? What really struck me first was that paradox. Separated from themselves and a companion to Rumi. How does that even work?
Yeah. It's key to remember Rumi isn't talking about a literal separation. It's not physical. He's talking about being separated from your true essence, like your innermost self.
Okay, I see.
In Sufism, this is often, talked about as the difference between Zahir and Batin. So Zahir is that outward appearance, the face we show the world. And Batin is that inner reality, like who you really are at your core.
Makes sense. So Rumi's saying most people live based on their Zahir, like that constructed self-image. And by doing that, they lose touch with their batin.
Exactly, right. And it's in that disconnect, that separation from our true selves. That's where we become, as Rumi says, his companions.
Okay, companions. But why companions? What does that even mean in this context?
Dr. Larijani, he offers this really interesting perspective. He suggests that Rumi's talking about a specific type of companion, people who are on a journey of self-discovery.
Oh, okay.
You see, in Sufism, this journey is often called suluk. It's a dedicated path, turning inward, shedding all those layers of the ego, and ultimately connecting with your batin.
Okay, so the people separated from themselves, the ones seeking their true essence, they're on this suluk, they're on this journey alongside Rumi.
Exactly. He sees that potential for transformation, in those who feel lost, who are, yearning for something more. It's like he's saying, hey, walk with me. Let's discover ourselves together.
I like that. Yeah, it's not about judging them for being lost. It's an invitation to go on this journey together. Rumi's not putting them down. He's saying, okay, this is where we start.
That's it. And this brings us to another cool point. It's not just who his companions are, it's why they're drawn to him in the first place.
Right.
Dr. Dinani, he suggests it's about this shared understanding, a connection, but on the level of the batin.
So not just feeling lost, but recognizing that feeling and then being drawn to someone or something in this case, that promises a deeper understanding of yourself.
Yeah. Think about how we judge people, right? We go by clothes, what they say, how they act, all external clues, aspects of their zahir. But that's just the surface. Their real thoughts, their deepest desires, you can't see that.
So Rumi's suggesting that just we can't truly know another person just by their outward appearance. We often don't even know ourselves on that deeper level.
Exactly. We're strangers to our own batin.
Wow.
And that's why they feel drawn to Rumi. They sense he gets it, a depth of understanding, a connection that goes beyond the surface. It's like they recognize a kindred spirit, someone who's been there into the depths of the batin and come back with these profound insights.
It's like they see their own longing reflected in him, like validation for their own search for meaning.
Beautifully put. And it speaks to the power of shared experience, finding comfort and guidance in those who've walked a similar path. Think about it. Have you ever felt truly seen by someone? They understood something deep inside you that you hadn't even put into words yourself.
I think we all crave that kind of connection, where you don't even need words. It's like being understood on a soul level. Resonating with another being's essence.
Exactly. And that's what Rumi's getting at here. It goes beyond those superficial differences. It speaks to that shared human experience of seeking truth, meaning, connection. And it's forged, in the depths of the batin.
This is so powerful. True connection happening on that level, the batin. Makes you think about I don't know, all the times I've felt misunderstood, or times I've tried to connect with someone and it doesn't click, even when you have things in common. Maybe we were trying to connect on the level of Zahir, that surface level.
That's a profound insight. And it brings up the question, how do we bridge that gap? How do we go beyond the surface and connect with others and maybe even ourselves on that deeper level of batten?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I'm not sure Rumi gives us like a clear-cut answer.
No, but I think there are clues scattered throughout his work.
Okay.
Like Dr. Dinani, he shares this really captivating story. It speaks to this idea of connecting, on a deeper level. It's about a Hindu man and a Turk. And they don't speak the same language, but they find this deep connection, this understanding.
That's interesting. Seems like almost a contradiction. How can you connect on the level of batten if you can't even communicate through language, which is like part of Zahir?
That's the beauty of it. It shows that true connection, it goes beyond surface stuff, like language or culture. It suggests that when two souls resonate on the level of batten, words become less important.
So it's not about finding the right words. It's about something deeper, something that speaks to the heart, not just the head.
Exactly. Dr. Dinani captures this beautifully. He says, and this is a quote, "The language of intimacy is something else. Empathy is better than speaking the same tongue."
Wow. Yeah, that really gets to the heart of it, huh? It's not about speaking the same language. It's about speaking the language of the heart, empathy, understanding.
That's it. And this story, it reminds us that these kinds of connections, they are possible. It's like a glimmer of hope. Amidst all the difference and division in the world, profound understanding can still emerge.
Like a beacon in the dark, a different way of relating to each other, to ourselves. But how do we do it? How do we cultivate that, tap into that language of intimacy and empathy?
Well, that's where those cryptic clues from Rumi come in. He doesn't explicitly tell us how to bridge the gap between Zahir and batten, but, there are hints. Throughout his work, it's like he's inviting us to go on our own journey of discovery.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of hints are we talking about? Like, what did Dr. Larijani and Dr. Dinani find?
Well, for one, Dr. Larijani mentions cultivating inner stillness, quieting the mind, all the thoughts, the distractions. That can create space for the batten to emerge.
Right, like clearing away the noise so you can actually hear the whispers of your own soul. But how do you do that? Especially these days, stillness feels like a luxury.
Yeah, it's tough, but Dr. Dinani, he talks about seeking knowledge, striving for self-improvement. He's suggesting it's not passive. You have to put in the effort. Be dedicated, be willing to really engage in self-discovery.
So it's not just about sitting in silence waiting for, like, enlightenment to strike. You're actively seeking knowledge, reflecting, challenging yourself to grow.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, through all that inner work, seeking, striving, we start to bridge that gap between Zahir and batten.
It's like Rumi saying, hey, the path is there, but you got to walk it. You got to do the work. And maybe, just maybe, the ones willing to go on that journey, they find themselves in Rumi's company, but not as someone separate from themselves, but as someone who's, finally come home to their true essence.
Beautifully said. It truly speaks to the power of his message, a call to action, an invitation to self-discovery, and ultimately a promise of connection, understanding. It's a journey, that requires us to shift our perspective. We got to move beyond just logic and linear thinking, embrace a more intuitive way of knowing, like a heart-centered way.
Yeah, it's like learning a whole new language, the language of the heart, the language of the soul, right? And it requires us to be open to mystery, to those paradoxes and contradictions that are just like woven into existence.
Dr. Larijani, he makes this really compelling point about how our Western analytical mindset, it can actually be a hindrance to understanding Rumi. We try to dissect his verses, break them down into these neat little logical parts, but in doing so, we might miss the essence.
Yeah, you lose the symbolism, the emotional resonance, the meaning that you can only really grasp intuitively. It's like trying to, I don't know, capture the fragrance of a rose by analyzing its chemical composition. You can identify the individual elements, but you'll never really experience the essence of that rose's scent.
Exactly. And that's why Dr. Dinani suggests approaching Rumi through the lens of love. His poetry is a love song to the divine. It's an expression of the soul's longing for union with the beloved.
So we need to read with our hearts open, not just our head. We need to feel it. Be open to the ambiguity, the multiple layers of meaning that are often present in his work.
He uses this beautiful analogy to illustrate this. It's like gazing at a starry night sky. We can try to count the stars, categorize them, map their positions, but we miss the awe-inspiring beauty of it all.
Yeah, we get lost in the details and forget to appreciate the vastness, the mystery, the sheer wonder of it.
And it's the same with Rumi's poetry. We can analyze his metaphors, dissect his verses, but we risk missing that transformative power of his words, the way they can lift us out of our ordinary consciousness and connect us with something greater.
So it's about surrender, right? Letting go of our need to control, to analyze everything, and just be present with the experience.
Yes, and in that surrender, in that letting go, the meaning might reveal itself, not through our intellect, but through our hearts.
Now, Dr. Dinani also brought up this intriguing point about the role of the teacher in the Sufi tradition. He explains that the teacher isn't there to give you the answers, but to guide you towards your own inner knowing.
Yeah, it's like the teacher is a midwife helping to birth the wisdom that's not already present within the student.
I love that. That's such a great analogy. It really highlights the importance of personal experience in the spiritual journey. It's not about blindly following someone else's teachings, but about discovering your own truth, your own path to the divine.
And that path often involves, stripping away layers, shedding old identities, beliefs that no longer serve us. Dr. Larijani, he compares it to like peeling an onion, revealing layer after layer of conditioning, programming that has shaped us until we reach the core, the essence of who we truly are.
And I imagine that process can be, messy, uncomfortable, even painful at times.
It can be, but it's also incredibly liberating. As we let go of those old patterns, those limiting beliefs, we create space for something new to emerge, something more authentic, more aligned with our true nature.
That reminds me of something else Dr. Dinani mentioned. He spoke about tasniya, this concept that's often translated as purification or refinement. It's about refining our character, our thoughts, our actions to become more aligned with the divine.
It's like polishing a mirror, right? Removing the dust and grime so it can reflect light more clearly.
And that polishing, that refining, it requires effort, intentionality. We need to look at ourselves honestly and be willing to make changes where necessary.
And it's not a one-time thing, right? It's an ongoing process, a self-reflection, self-improvement, and ultimately self-transcendence.
Dr. Larijani made an interesting point about this. He said that tazkiyah isn't just about personal transformation. It's also about contributing to the well-being of the world around us.
Because as we purify ourselves, as we become more aligned, our actions naturally become more compassionate, more loving, more beneficial to everyone. It's like our own transformation ripples outwards.
Right. And that brings us full circle back to Rumi's quote about those separated from themselves being his companions. Our journey, connecting with our true essence, it's not just about like personal fulfillment. It's also about contributing to a larger awakening, a collective transformation of consciousness.
Yes, because as we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And as we awaken to our true nature, we awaken the world to its own divine potential. It's a beautiful vision, a world where love, compassion, and wisdom prevail.
And it all starts with each of us, taking responsibility for our own inner transformation.
With each of us choosing to listen, deeply to those whispers of our hearts, to follow the path of love, and to become instruments of peace and healing in the world.
It's amazing, these ideas, these concepts from so long ago, they still feel so relevant to us today. We're talking about the beloved, yearning for connection. And it strikes me how many people are struggling with that, especially now.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Connection today, it's often so superficial, fleeting, and it's all through screens. It's easy to feel isolated, to long for something deeper, more meaningful.
And that's where Rumi's poetry, it really shines. It reminds us that this longing, this yearning for the beloved, it's not a bad thing. It's actually like a sign. It's pointing us towards our own spiritual awakening.
It's like, we're not meant to be alone. There's this source of love, connection, and it's always there. Dr. Dinani, he brings up this famous line from Rumi: "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there." It's like Rumi saying, come on, step outside of all that, the judgments, the narrow views. Meet me in this place of pure presence, pure connection.
That image, that field beyond right and wrong, it's powerful. It feels like a place of, total acceptance, unconditional love, where you could just be yourself no masks.
Exactly. And it's in that space, that authenticity, that vulnerability, letting go of control, that's where we can really experience the beloved's presence. But getting there, it's often a journey of, well, letting go, stripping away those layers that separate us from who we really are.
Right?
Dr. Larijani, he brings up this concept of taqlid, which often translates as imitation or blind following. But in the context of suluk, he's saying taqlid can be about clinging to like external rules, rituals, without really getting their deeper meaning.
So it's not enough to just go through the motions. You have to go beyond blind faith rituals and really seek a deeper understanding, an authentic experience.
Exactly. It's about that inner work, self-reflection, purification, not just going through the motions. Dr. Dinani, he connected this idea of moving beyond taqlid to that story of the Hindu man and the Turk. Remember, they connect despite their differences. He suggested it wasn't about shared beliefs or practices, but a deeper recognition of their shared humanity, their longing for the beloved.
So it's not about fitting into a box, following a specific set of rules. It's about that heartfelt yearning, that authentic seeking. It goes beyond the externals.
Yes, and that yearning, that seeking, it unites us. It connects us to the beloved, to each other, to that divine essence and everything.
It's like we're all on this journey together, each with our own path, but heading towards the same destination. Union with the beloved, and we have guides, mentors, companions along the way.
Thinking about all this, the beloved, the journey, the power of sound, I'm so grateful for Rumi's legacy. His words from centuries ago, they still speak to us. They offer guidance, comfort, inspiration for anyone looking for that deeper connection with themselves, with others, with the divine.
And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap things up. Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani, their insights have really helped us understand Rumi's poetry on a deeper level. It's a reminder that this journey, it's ongoing. There's always more to discover. And that the beloved is always there, waiting to welcome us back.
Beautifully said. And to everyone listening, remember, the path is there. Take that first step. Listen to your heart, and let Rumi's words be your guide to your own unique experience of the beloved.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Rumi. Until next time, may your journey be filled with love, light, and the music of the soul.